Hey everybody! All right, today I want to talk a little bit about the ideal client and ideal client stuff because this is just so important right now in our market, in the real estate space that we're all in. We've got to really hone that in, and I want to start with a few examples of why this is so important. I had a friend of mine point out the other day as we were having this conversation. He was talking about restaurants, and the idea that you don't see a lot of big restaurants that sell burgers and fries and pizza and chicken fingers and smoothies and seafood. It's like you see that on the side and you don't know exactly what it is that they do, which is why you don't see any big restaurant chains doing that. People don't know them for anything. And he brought this up to me the other day. He said, "Paul, you do a lot of stuff, but like I don't know exactly who to send to you for remodeling stuff." And I'm going to speak through the lens of my construction company right now. So, I was just giving a lot of thought to that. Like people used to come to me for all sorts of stuff. We had somebody come over, like they had a roof. It was actually a guy in the club, Michael McLaren. He sent me a referral to somebody, and I get on this call with him, and he's like, "Well, I've got a problem with my roof. The decking is going bad. We need to replace it. I need to add some structural components to this." And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, in my head, I know that that's not a good ideal client for me, but because I'm such a generalist, or like I present that I'm a very generalist, it's caused lack of focus. And so, I'm giving a lot of thought to how I apply that in my business. Like when you think of one thing, what is it that you think of? For burgers, for example, you probably have that restaurant in town that like that's all that they do. And anytime you want to get a burger, you probably don't go to the place that also has seafood and also has pasta and also has whatever. You go to the place that has burgers, and it's the same thing. If we went down this vein, and I probably won't go down this route, but like Pop Tops, for example. I think a lot of people know me for Pop Tops, and that's a super marketable and brandable kind of product to offer. We went down this rabbit hole of like, what if we could dominate the whole Denver market just through that one avenue? Imagine again if you're going online and you're typing in contractor for Pop Tops, and you see all these contractors, and yeah, they probably have a page dedicated to it. We do Pop Tops, we do additions, we do ADUs, we do remodels, we do new construction, all this stuff. Imagine if you went to the one site that said, "We do Pop Tops. That's all we do." Everything that you see on the marketing message was all dedicated to that. And so, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. We're just really trying to apply this in real time to our business, but the ability to really clarify your message and speak exactly to what you do better than anybody else in the market, that is the key to the ideal client thing. And it's, again, I think something that all of us are trying to solve. So I want you to think about restaurants. I want you to also think about system reliability. So if you're new to the club, you may not know exactly what we mean by this, but the system reliability is, the idea is like the more things that need to go right, the less likely they all are to go right. Because, and I learned this phrase, we talked about it in college, but I really wasn't like thinking about it like this until a mentor of mine recently, a few years ago, pointed this out to me that first of all, nothing you do is perfect. We're not operating. Most people think like, hey, okay, like I've got, 6 leads and I can acquire 6 customers and I can sell it for $6. And so they think, it's 6 times 6 times 6. And I don't know what that is. 36 times 6, call it, 200. I don't know. It's not that. But point being is like, that's not how it works. We think that, okay, well, I've got this product. Maybe I'll add another thing. And we'll sell another service, for example. Like maybe it's, ADUs, or maybe now we're going to start doing kitchens, and now we're going to start doing outdoor landscape design and stuff like this. And so, but that's not how it works. Everything is inside of fractions because nothing's perfect. So you might have, a marketing system or a marketing channel, but everything is like, it's like 66%, likely that's going to work. And as you start adding all these things up, or like times, you add this one thing and it's fantastic, 99%. Well, I could pull up my spreadsheet and show you like the product of this. I'll do it on my phone right now. Say 0.66 times 0.66 times 0.99 is 43%. So if your goal is to have reliability in your business, this is a mathematical case for simplicity. The more things that need to go right, because nothing is perfect, the less likely it all is to go right. So as you keep adding these components and adding all these things, it makes your system less reliable. We have a whole thing on this. I've made videos on this in the past. There's my mentor, Nick Peterson, has made videos on this, but the idea is fairly, I think, easy for us to grasp, but it's much harder to do in practice because what we really have to make this shift towards is like hyper focus, you know? And unfortunately, there comes a time when you just have to pick. You got to pick. You got to decide which product are we really going to go with? Which one do we like to deliver? What's the ideal client we want to work with? And who you're serving right now may not necessarily be your ideal client, and that's okay. But I think we've got to get clear on, well, who do we really want to serve at a really high level? And then what are the problems that they have? So first is, who do we really want to serve? And remember, that may not be who you're serving now. Maybe you want to work with higher end, client remodels, but right now you're stuck doing, $30,000 bathrooms. That's okay. Let's just get clear on who we serve now, who do we want to serve, and the steps that we want to take to kind of move it towards that. But it's got to be a narrow focus, and it's got to be also a focus on like let's say, how do I want to say this? Like, who are you uniquely positioned to serve? And here's the thing, like this whole concept about pop tops, we went down this rabbit hole and I was like, here's the thing. I've only done 3 of these. We're doing our 3rd thing. How could I be the authority on pop tops? I'd be honest with you. That thought initially was like the first thing that popped into my head. And then the second thought I had is like, in a very short amount of time, I could learn more than 99% of the people in my market about that. I could become an expert. I could share that expertise. And as long as the market perceives you as the expert, well, guess what? You are. So I don't think that you have to, be the best in the world at serving that client. But I think the more you hyper focus on it, the longer you do that, the better you're going to be positioned to serve that person. So whether it's pop tops or it's coaching or it's whatever, like niche down and get clear on like who you want to serve, how you are uniquely positioned to serve them. And then ultimately, what's the problem you solve for them? And, I can really speak towards my construction company because we've just given a lot of thought to this. Like my buyer my client, the people who work with me are not just looking to renovate a bathroom. That's not the problem that they have. The problem is that they're tired of tripping over each other in the morning and bumping their leg on the toilet and fighting for the sink when they're trying to brush their teeth and get out the door. Like, the problem isn't the bathroom. The problem is that they're tired of fighting with each other in the morning. Or the problem is that they want to redo their kitchen. But the real problem isn't that the kitchen is dated. The problem is that they don't feel like they can host people. They want to host their friends. They want to have people come over. They want to grill out. They want this to be the house where everybody comes to, and they want to have a certain feeling about that. Or maybe the problem isn't that they need to renovate their basement. The problem is that they don't have enough space when their in-laws come into town because now they have a 2-year-old. And so the 1 bedroom they have upstairs is just not going to cut it. Like the in-laws can't stay anywhere. So I'm thinking really deeply about like the actual problems that my clients have. And really what it comes down to is it's not pretty bathrooms, it's functionality. That's what I think. When I think about my clients is they just don't have the space now with their growing family or the lifestyle changes that they have. So like we are very directly and intentionally positioning our product to serve that problem that they have, whether it's they're tired of tripping over each other and they're fighting in the morning, or they can't host, people over, their in-laws don't have anywhere to stay. Again, those are some examples that I wanted to share with you. And I'm also giving a lot of thought to like, are we doing too many things? Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, this kind of thing. Am I turning into that restaurant that sells smoothies and pizza and burgers and all the different things, right? So, anyways, I don't want to make this video and pretend like I've got it all figured out. I think the point of the conversations we have each and every week is to help all of us get closer to solving the problems for our ideal clients and recognizing that more things is not better. I don't want to go to that restaurant. I'd rather go to the steakhouse because that's what they do. If I want steak, I'm going to a steakhouse. I'm not going to some place that sells steak and 20 other different things. So who are you uniquely positioned to serve? How do you communicate that to your clients? And how do you do it through the lens of their problems, right? Not your features, but like the benefit, the problem that they're trying to solve. My team keeps pinging me here. So here's a couple things I want you to do, and we did this at the event. First, do a 6-word update. Who is your ideal client? You need to be able to say that super, super clear. Super, super clear. Who is your ideal client? 6-word update on what problem do you solve for your clients? Answer that one really clearly. And this one, I don't know if you can get this into a 6-word update, but I want you to think about who are you not a good fit for? That is actually probably an easier way to think about all these things. When you think about your ideal client, you can kind of go back and forth, and I serve this person, I can do all these different things. I think that's okay at the beginning. I found it was really helpful for me to do the inverse. Like, who am I not a good fit for? Somebody that just wants to renovate their bathroom, like what we call a rip and replace. We're not a good fit for them. Why? Because we're not solving the problem that we're the best fit to solve for our clients. So give that some thought. We're going to continue talking about the ideal client because frankly, I don't think there's very many more important things in a service-based business to know your client extremely well, to think very deeply about the problems that they have. And it's not a new kitchen. It's that they can't host. They want to host their friends, but they don't feel like they have the room to do that. Or, I was kicking this around with one of my project managers, Dan, this morning. And I said, I bet that double vanities have saved more marriages than just about anything else that you could do in a home improvement. Right? Or like, we were sort of saying like, hey, if your kitchen's closed off, you only get a certain number of hours every day with your kids. And if you got to lose an hour every day because your kitchen's closed off and they're in the living room playing and you can't see them when you're making dinner and you're doing dishes and stuff like this, like you're giving up a lot of time with those kids. Imagine what it would look like to open that up and now you can see them growing up. Anyways, we're kind of testing out some of these different things, but highly recommend ideal client stuff. Think about these things. Think about the restaurants that sell everything, right? And why we don't go there. Think about the idea of system reliability. The more things that need to go right, the less likely it all is. We want to have that hyper focus. Now, if you're just starting your company, that may not be the right move. You may not want to hyper focus yet. You might want to use some soft offense, kind of see where that goes. But if you've been doing this for a while, you start focusing those things. And these questions will really help. 6-word update for who is your ideal client, 6-word update for what problem you solve for them, and then just as importantly, who are you not a good fit for?